Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and today's episode for the Ford Granada Mark III. Welcome back, and Quarterlight, if you don't know, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world, although mainly the UK, 3 times a week. So if you think that might interest you, watch the video and consider subscribing if you like. It's very much appreciated. Anyway, back to today's episode. The Ford Granada Mark III, first launched in 1985 and it ran till 1994. Bit of a funny one with the name because the rest of continental Europe called it the Ford Scorpio by this time, but I guess UK and Ireland wanted to hang on, so we renamed it the Granada for one last time. Although also interestingly, we also called the top of the range Granada's Scorpios, just to confuse things still further. Anyway, it was also the first European volume production model to have ABS as standard and was also the 1986 Car of the Year. So without further ado, let's have a look at today's brochure. So this is the Ford Cars full range brochure dated February 1988, and really the styling of the Granada, very much styled to fit in with the family. It kind of like looks like a larger Ford Sierra from some angles. The model featured on this front page is the Ghia model. You would know that without even seeing the Ghia badging, to be honest with you, because the Ghia was the first model that actually got these sort of headlamp wash. The model below, the GL, didn't have that. Anyway, we'll look at more of these little features and as we go through the brochure. When we turn the first page, in typical Ford style, it shows a bit of a see-through image, an X-ray type image of the Granada. We're not got really time to look through all this. This particular was actually drawn by Terry Collins. I don't know who that is. If you know who Terry Collins is, please do jot that in the description. Fabulous, if that was your job drawing these, what an amazing job. And then we get to the first models proper. So it's actually showing 2 models here, the base Granada L and the even more base Granada Taxi. So 2 variations. Strangely, all these images are for the Granada L. There's just this tiny little caption at the bottom, which we'll read in a moment, for the Granada Taxi. Unusual model, the Taxi. Ford have done these taxi models for years. Although they used to actually just come in black. At this stage there was a variety of colours. You couldn't get the full colour range, but you could get the same colours you could get for your Granada L. The other similarities between the Taxi and the L, there was the only 2 models you can actually get as a diesel. Surprisingly, you couldn't get any of the other range as a diesel. The Taxi differs is that you could only have it as a diesel. The L, you could get that as a 2 litre petrol or at that 2.5 litre diesel if you wanted. Other interesting things is, and we'll look at these later on as well, but the Granada Taxi was actually the cheapest Granada in the range, although interestingly it seemed to have some extra features above the Granada L. I don't know if you could just walk in the showroom and buy a Granada Taxi as just a private individual who just wanted it as a private vehicle. I'm not sure, but certainly the Granada Taxi would be a rare model today. Obviously you're more likely as your private individual to walk in and get the L, and with the L you could spec it up with extras like electric windows, which you couldn't do in the Granada Taxi. But like I said, there is some unusual little features extra on the Taxi you didn't get with the L, and it was a cheaper price, which that surprised me a little bit. But anyway, enough waffle. Let's read some of the text and then we'll go through some of these images. And I should really point out also these features on these particular models, they change year on year. This is for Feb 1988, so it's obviously not going to apply for every year. Anyway, the Granada L, the sleek, spacious and versatile Granada, has won more awards than any other car in Ford's history. The well-equipped Granada L rides on fully independent suspension and has one of the world's most advanced anti-lock braking systems as standard. You know, the key feature really with the Granada to have that ABS throughout the range at this time. Anyway, key features, them engine choices which we've talked about: 5-speed gearbox, ABS, steel wheels, remote control door mirrors, tailgate wash wipe, integral driving lights, power steering on the 2 litre. That's unusual. Power steering on the 2 litres. Does that mean the heavier 2.5 diesel doesn't have power steering? That's a bit of an omission, really, isn't it, if that's the case? Anyway, courtesy lights operated by all 4 doors, Newport cloth trim front seats, rear seat backs with 60-40 split, steering column adjustable for rake and reach, self-seat FM cassette, and then we got options. We could have a motorised central locking with a torch key, the all-important torch key at this time. So some of the little images, so courtesy lights operated by all 4 passenger doors are typical of the way the Granada L looks after its drivers and passengers. That's an unusual way of wording it. We've got a steering wheel adjustable for rake and reach, and that dashboard looks very basic. No rev counter on there, is there? Although, you know, compared to the rest of the Ford range, the Granada wasn't really badly equipped in this sort of very basic spec. If we look at the seats, they don't look too bad, don't they? There's lots of ergonomically designed seats by the looks of it, which look pretty good. We've also got this little remote stalk for adjusting the mirrors, and a look at the Granada L. Like I say, all the images are of that Granada L. There doesn't seem to be any images of the taxi whatsoever, but you know, think a similar look. I'm not sure if the wheel trims were the same, but you know, there we go. Or even if it had wheel trims, maybe we'll find out in the specifications at the end. And then a little bit of an image showing how roomy that lovely hatch really is. Very practical big car, really. And then finally, this is the only wording we've got about the taxi. New standards for fare paying passengers and their drivers are firmly established by the value for money taxi version of Ford's stylish and versatile Granada. And like I say, specifications at the end, so we'll kind of like compare some of them specifications of the taxi and the most closely resembled model, the L. Okay, and then we move up to the GL model, don't we? As typical with Ford, you know, you add the little bright inserts, make it a little bit brighter in there. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the tech before we look at these nice seats. So the Granada GL's attractions include a choice of 3 engines, from the 2 litre to the new 2.4 litre V6. So basically there's two 2 litres, the standard 2 litre and the 2 litre injection, and that 2.4, 5-speed gearbox of course, ABS, central locking now with that nice torch key, tinted glass, tailgate wash wipe, windscreen wipers, intermittent, power steering on the 2 litre and 2. This is strange again, isn't it? Power steering on the 2 litre and 2 litre injection. What about that V6 engine? Surely that's got power steering as well. Again, we'll look at the specs at the end. Driver's seat with height adjustment, centre armrest for split folding back seats, tilt slide, screened glass sunroof, electrically operated front windows, vanity mirror on passenger sun visor, that FM cassette, and then we've got key optional features. Include an extra cost, include a windscreen rapid de-ice feature. Very nice. So it really does step up quite a bit to the GL. If you could afford it, I think it was certainly worth stepping up to the GL. I guess the key feature on there is that sort of center armrest. The seats generally look nice. I don't think they are too much nicer though, but it looks like certainly a nicer colour, so maybe it is a nicer fabric on there. Overall, it seems like a big jump to the GL. Like I say, you get a lot more features on there. Then, as I often say, the car you aspire to have, the Granada Ghia. In this case, a little bit strange, the Granada Ghia, because you always think about the Ghia as being like the top model. In the Granada range at this time, it was like a mid-level entry. I think it's the model I would have chose looking at the prices, and we'll look at the prices in a bit, because your Granada Ghia, the pricing was kind of like quite well placed really, and also you had a good choice of engines. So if you chose the 2-litre injection, the smallest engine for the Ghia, it was actually cheaper than say a 2.4-litre GL, or you could go the other way and get the big 2.9-litre V6 on the Ghia as well, and it's very well appointed. And I always think it stands out with having these little washers on the headlamps as well, and you get a lot more equipment. The seats look nicer in this sort of two-tone colour, and overall it feels like a big step up. And like I say, there are more features as you go up the range, and there is a lot more range to go, but price wise I always thought the Ghia at this time was probably the sensible choice. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the specs. Okay, Granada Ghia. Ford's prestigious Granada Ghia is a 5-seater executive express that wafts you from place to place in a lap of affordable luxury. Fog lights, high pressure headlight washers and wood veneer instrument panel appliques are featured that make the 1988 model more attractive than ever. And like I say, nice choice of engines, that 2-litre injection, 2.4-litre injection, and that big 2.9-litre injection. And the 2.4 and the 2.9 are V6 engines. 5-speed gearbox, of course. And you can also get an automatic transmission as standard on the 2.9, which gives you more choice. Electronically controlled ABS, of course, front fog lamps, headlamp wash, electrically operated front and now rear windows as well, electrically operated and heated door mirrors, tilt and slide screen sunroof, multifunctional digital clock, wood veneer instrument panel applique, adjustable lumbar seat or on driver's seat, tachometer and graphic warning module for doors, lights, fluid level, brake wear, 6-speaker sound system with amplifier, and at extra cost you could have air conditioning and that windscreen rapid de-ice. So you know, it was not much more than a GL, and it had a lot of features. So like I say, I think it was the model to pick. Lovely interior. I'm going to guess this is probably the 2.9 with the automatic transmission. Nice seats. It looks like a comfortable place to be, and like I say, electric windows all round and that nice rear armrest. A nice sunroof, and this sort of like strange sort of what did it call it? It calls it a clear instrument, including a tachometer, are supplied by warning lights and a graphic display depicting a plan view of the Ghia. So this, you know, door open, lights, etc. An unusual little graphic. Interior wise, we've got obviously got a rev counter now, but you can sort of see the sort of luxury features of the nice wood, probably pretend plastic wood, but there we go. And there is that sort of amplifier, and I do think it looks particularly nice in this green colour. No alloy wheels yet, though. These are going to be just steel wheels with a plastic wheel trim, and it's surprising how far up the range before you get alloy wheels as standard. Anyway, let's see what comes next. So now we get the Granada Ghia X. Surprisingly, the Ghia X is still coming with steel wheels and wheel trims, which is surprising, isn't it? It looks like you had to get the Granada Ghia X 4x4 to get the alloy wheels. You can see the wood, but anyway, let's have a look at some of the text for the Granada Ghia X. Okay, so the Granada Ghia X: cruise control, a fuel computer, an electrically heated windscreen are just a few of the new Granada Ghia X's attractions. And I guess we should, while we're here, we might as well mention this little electronic sort of computer fuel system. Really dates it, doesn't it? You know, how much we've moved on from 1988, but it looks very, I suppose at the time that was like wow, but there it is. Anyway, I'm waffling. The choice of engines on this one, the same, 2 litre, 2.4 or that 2.9 V6. If you get the 4x4, it looks like it's just powered by that 2.9 litre V6. Auto transmission, standard on the Ghia X 2.9. 5-speed gearbox, standard on the Ghia X 4x4. ABS, anti-theft alarm. Or you could get black or metallic paint at no extra cost. Electrically operated and heated door mirrors, headlight washers, electrically heated windscreen, cruise control, fuel computer, astral cloth trim. So, you know, we're high up the trim levels, we've still not got leather, which is a little bit unusual. Almost, like I say, when I looked at this before, it was like, it wasn't really worth paying that extra for the Ghia X over the Ghia. For me, no, although I'm sure lots of us would disagree, I should say. So we've got a sunroof, we've got electrically operated front and rear, that sound system with 6 speakers. And then if we move down to the 4x4, it just says the 4x4 version of the Granada Ghia X combines luxury with all the advantages of Ford's superb all-wheel drive transmission system. And then there's those Ghia X's steel wheels with just wheel trims, which is surprising, isn't it, on an Ghia X. Sort of heater controls. What else have we got to show you? I guess this seats not dissimilar really to the Ghias by the looks of it. And that dashboard. Like I said, that little fuel consumer, it's almost like a little calculator, isn't it? It's very weird, but like I said, at the time I'm sure it was very fancy. Oh, and there's this little image here as well. Switches on the steering wheel for the cruise control. I guess the cruise control was the big step up really to the Ghia X. And then this is the 4-wheel drive version with the alloy wheels. Like I said, the alloy wheels would have been standard on this 4-wheel drive version. And then, you know, that tells us the Granada range has finished, and now we're up to the Ford Scorpio. I'm not going to do another episode for the Scorpio because it's not really fooling anyone. It's just a Granada with more extras on it, so strangely. But like I say, Ford wanted to think this is a whole different model. Anyway, let's zoom in and have a look at some of this text. So we've got an electrically operated screens, sunroof, automatic cruise control. We've got such luxuries as these 2 reading lights. And then if we look down at some of the switch gear, yeah, we've got that fancy little computer thing by the looks of it. But not really too dissimilar, isn't it, to the high-spec Granadas. Like I say, it was strange this time, wasn't it? We had the Granada and the Scorpio. Like I say, in continental Europe, there was just the Scorpio. There was all called the Scorpio, I guess. Like I say, we tried to hang on to that much-loved Granada name for a little bit longer, didn't we, than the rest of continental Europe, and just rebadged the lower models Granada. But it is strange how they're trying to make this as being a separate model in the UK. A little bit of text about this electronic sound system and the air conditioning, electric windows, etc. We do now have these little marker lights on there, and we've of course got that headlight wash system. There's though also models within this top of range model, so you can get the Scorpio with the fabric trim. Weird, we're right at the top of the range now, we've still not got leather as standard. You'd have to go with the Scorpio with the leather trim to get these nice seats, and they do look very nice, don't they? And there's also a Scorpio 4x4. So let's have a look at some of this text. So the superb Scorpio combines smooth riding luxury with vivid performance. We've got a 2.9, it seems to be the only engine now. ABS, aircon, black or metallic paint, no extra cost. Anti-theft alarm. We do have some nice alloy wheels as standard now though. Cruise control, a Halley fabric trim, heated front seats, electrically operated sunroof, and that 6-seat speaker. Sound system. There's a nice little image of it in your two-tone colour, the black below that rubbing strip there. And you also had the Scorpio with the leather trim. The Scorpio is also available with either Raven or Mace leather trim, adding the smell of luxury. Features are the same as in the Halley trimmed Scorpio. So why it didn't say you had a Scorpio and you could just add the leather trim? I don't know why it needed a separate category really. There is that leather in black, and then the 4x4. The Scorpio 4x4 available of Halley fabric or leather trim, so it says it for the 4x4. Is made even more attractive and efficient by Ford's 4-wheel drive transmission. Key features: permanently engaged 4-wheel drive, 7-spoke alloy wheels, and there it looks like it's featuring it with the cloth trim. And then, like I say, these are the star seats, I think, in this brown colour. They do look particularly nice. And then we got an image of a Scorpio in black. And then the technical specs, and even though it tried to separate them in the brochures, both the Granada and Scorpio have been lumped together, quite rightly so, in the specifications. So they're the engines you could get: that 2-litre non-injected, the carburetor version, the 2-litre injection, the 2.4-litre injection, and the 2.9 EFI, and don't forget that 2.5 diesel, like we said at the start, only available on the taxi version and the L, strangely enough. And they'll give us some performance figures here, like so. I'm not going to read all the figures out. I guess the standout, of course, is that 2.9 top speed, 129 miles per hour, 0 to 60, a very respectable 8.5 seconds for such a big vehicle. And then some of the curb weights and the insurance grouping. I guess interestingly, the 2.9, or pretty much nearly all apart from the diesel, was insurance group 6. One extra on the Scorpio, insurance group 7. Okay, and this chart kind of gives you an idea of what engine sizes you could have on whichever variation you had, from the taxi all the way to that Scorpio. And like I said, the taxi only available as that 2.5 diesel with a 5-speed gearbox, and the only other car you could have with that diesel was the L, although you could choose that non-injected 2-litre if you wanted. Okay, and some of the specifications, it goes from the taxi on the left all the way to the Scorpio on the right, but all these features are available right across the board on all the models. Then we get to the standard exterior features on the top there before we get to what features are available on what model. So if we go down Try and get as much in there as I possibly can for you. So it's saying like an alarm is only available on the Ghia X and Scorpio. I guess that's a sign of the times. What else do we have that's worth pointing out? Like I say, you can pause it and look yourself, but I guess that taxi feature comes up again. So wiring and fixing points for roof mounted sign, obviously just available on that taxi. We'll go down the wheels, you know, steel wheels, wheel covers. Yeah, it does look like the taxi version does get some form of a wheel cover that's the same as the L by the looks of it. Then we get the interior specifications. All these features here available on all the models. Again, you can pause if you want to read through all that. And the additional interior features, you know, which model has got which feature. Standout points: air conditioner only available on the Scorpio. Very much a sign of the times. Surprising from anyone outside of UK, but at this time, air conditioning on cars wasn't really popular. Not many vehicles that weren't high spec models really didn't have them on there. An interesting thing to point out again with that taxi model, which like I say is unusual, the console has two variations of console. We can have a tunnel mounted console with large trinket tray and coin tray available on the L or the GL. High spec models get the tunnel mounted console with large trinket tray, coin rack, storage box, padded lid, provision for cassette storage on the Ghia X Scorpio. But also that lowly taxi, the cheapest variation of them all. Also the taxi gets this strange heater. I'm not sure what that's all about. Further interior features. Instrument panel, lights. Again, an unusual thing with the taxi version. Rear courtesy lights on that very base taxi, not on the L or GL. You have to get higher than a Ghia for that particular feature. We've also got these two additional lights and instrument panel switched. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but there we go, there's extra features there as well. The diesel, the taxi also got your driver's height adjustment, which the L didn't have. And you've got this, what it's just called a taxi feature. So you've got a taximeter housing on top of instrument panel, electronic taximeter, drive via speedometer, drive to DIN box, provisions, two-way radio mounting and suppression. And then your additional features, so your electrically operated front window on a GL or above, electric all round on the Ghia and above, headlight wash only available on the Ghia or higher, and it looks like even wipers, variable intermittent wipers only available on Ghia or higher, which is surprising, isn't it, really? And then we get to the colours and trim. So there are all the colours available, and you'll notice it looks like a complete choice of colours you can have apart from the taxi or the L, which got fewer options. For example, you couldn't have like a solid colour like ivory on a taxi or the L model. Again, if you want to read that in more detail, please do pause the screen. And then we get to that all important price list. Like I say, that 2.5 litre diesel taxi version is the cheapest, £11,401. You had to step up to what, another £1,000 to get the L version, or even if you just ended up with that 2 litre petrol, it was still slightly more than that taxi. So that's what I say, you know, it's surprising you get all them features above the L, but it's a cheaper price. I don't know, did you have to have a minimum amount ordered if you wanted the taxi, or did you have to prove that you was, I don't know. I really don't know why that's a lower price. If you do know why it was so much cheaper, please do bleep bloop that in the comments, because I have no idea if the average man in the street can say, you know what, I just want the taxi. I guess it was probably a special order model. You couldn't just walk in and there was one available in the showroom, no doubt. Anyway, so starting at the proper models that you could probably just walk in and get, £11,413.83 was the price to get you in that Granada L. Leaping right to that top of the range Scorpio for £22,639, so you know, round about double the price of an L. And like I was saying before, I think the model I would have got would have been the Ghia. It kind of like makes sense to get that Ghia model, and you know, if you just was happy with that 2-litre injection, it was actually cheaper than the 2.4-litre GL Granada. I think that was kind of like a nice fit, that particular model. And there we go, here are the Granada Scorpio options, as in what would you like to get at an extra cost. And you know, you got features such as we can put an alarm on that taxi if we wish to. It looks like just a very basic alarm system on there, doesn't it? What else can we option on there? So we can have auto transmission, £700, interestingly. What have we got? Black paints, extra 120. Metallic paint, extra 170. Interesting, if we go further down the list there, we can option that taxi and the L to have tinted glass if we want. But if we notice, you can only option the L to have the electric windows. There was no feature or availability to have an electric operated front windows on the taxi version. And there are the extra cover, which, like I said, is usually the most expensive thing. Okay, I think we'll end it there. This video's gone a bit longer than expected, but it's such a full range, isn't it, the Granada / Scorpio range. Please let me know any of your memories of this particular version, and we'll wrap it up by saying thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. We'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.